Cale had always thought Spaceport Veyron 5 was just another stop on his endless circuit of deliveries. The neon lights reflected off the rain-slicked metal streets, and the air smelled of ozone, fuel, and fried rations from the street vendors. He adjusted his pilot jacket, feeling the worn leather press against his shoulders, and moved quickly through the crowded market lane toward the small bar tucked between 2 larger corporate towers. He had been promised a quick night off, a few hours of peace before he had to return to his cargo ship and plan the next route. The bar was dim and noisy, filled with a mix of mercenaries, traders, and a few locals trying to forget their daily struggles. Cale slid onto a stool at the far corner, hoping no one would notice him. He had just poured himself a drink when a sudden commotion erupted near the entrance. Shouts and crashing sounds filled the room. A group of burly men, armed with energy clubs and bad intentions, had surrounded a young woman with a commanding presence, though her elegance and the expensive fabrics she wore made her stand out among the patrons. Cale squinted through the smoky haze. The woman struggled against the men, her voice sharp as she demanded they let her go. There was something about her that made even the rowdy crowd stop and stare. She didn't look frightened. She looked furious. Cale's instincts kicked in immediately. He couldn't just watch. He slid off his stool, careful to keep his movements hidden, and edged closer. The first man swung his club carelessly, aiming at her shoulder. Cale ducked, grabbed the man's arm mid-swing, and twisted it. The man yelped in pain, dropping the weapon. Chaos erupted as Cale moved between her and the attackers, using his quick reflexes and years of experience dodging and fighting in tight spaces. The woman seized the opportunity, shoving the nearest thug with such force that he stumbled into another. Cale noticed she wasn't just beautiful. She was strong and agile. Even under threat, she moved with purpose, as if every motion was calculated. He felt a surge of admiration, tempered with the urgency of the situation. He grabbed a fallen chair and swung it with precision, scattering 2 more attackers. The patrons of the bar either ducked or fled, leaving the small space almost empty except for the woman and her assailants. One of the men lunged at Cale with a knife, but Cale caught his wrist, twisted it, and sent him sprawling to the floor. The woman didn't hesitate. She kicked another man squarely in the chest, sending him crashing into the bar counter. Within minutes, the fight was over. The attackers had fled, some nursing bruises, others shaking with anger and fear. The bar was in disarray. Chairs overturned, tables broken, and spilled drinks staining the floor. Cale wiped sweat from his brow and turned toward the woman, who was now looking at him with a mix of surprise and amusement. "You didn't have to do that," she said, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. "Most people just watch." Kyle shrugged, trying to hide the adrenaline still racing through him. "I don't like people getting hurt if I can stop it," he replied. "Besides, I didn't like the look of your company." She laughed, a sound that was both musical and commanding. "Company?" she repeated. "Those were just a few troublemakers. But thank you." "I'm Leora. Cale," he said simply, still catching his breath. He didn't mention his last name. It wasn't important right now. All that mattered was that the immediate danger had passed. Leora glanced around the bar, her sharp eyes noting the damage. "You're surprisingly capable," she said, almost to herself. Most people would have panicked or called for security. Not you. Cale smiled faintly. "I've been in a few scrapes before. You get used to it." He gestured toward the exit. "Come on, let's get you somewhere safer." She nodded, and they left the bar together. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, reflecting the city's neon glow in scattered puddles. Leora walked beside him, her posture confident, her expression thoughtful. Cale noticed she moved with a certain grace that didn't come from training alone. It came from someone used to command, to being watched, to being admired. "You're brave," she said suddenly, glancing at him. Most pilots I know wouldn't step in like that. I do what I can, Kale replied. It's not about bravery. It's about making sure people don't get hurt. It's amidst a pig feeling afterward. She studied him for a moment, then smiled, a mysterious smile that seemed to hold secrets. You're different, she said softly, and I like that. But you're lucky you didn't get yourself killed tonight. Kale shrugged again. Luck is part of it. Timing, too, and maybe a little skill. They walked through the crowded streets until they reached a small landing pad where a hovercar awaited. Leora motioned for Kale to get in. He hesitated. He wasn't used to sudden invitations from strangers, especially not someone who could probably crush him if she wanted. But there was something in her eyes. Trust, confidence, perhaps even a hint of challenge that made him step forward. Inside the hovercar, Leora glanced at him. I insist you come with me, she said firmly. I don't just accept help and let people walk away. You're coming. I'm not a bodyguard or a hero, Kale said cautiously.
I'm just a pilot. You're more than that, she replied with certainty. And you're exactly the kind of person I need right now.
Someone I can trust. Kale looked at her, trying to understand the weight of her words. She wasn't just some rich girl in trouble. She was someone used to power, influence, and people bending to her will. And yet, she saw him as an equal. The hovercar lifted into the rainy night sky, the city shrinking below them as they accelerated into the clouds. Kale studied Leora, noticing details he hadn't before. The determination in her eyes, the slight tension in her jaw, the way her fingers flexed as if she was ready to act at any moment. She wasn't just a target. She was a fighter, someone used to facing danger and surviving. I don't usually travel with strangers, Leora said after a few moments of silence. But I trust you, Kale. I trust you because you acted when it mattered. Most people would have hesitated, not you. Kyle shrugged, unsure how to respond. Compliments weren't his forte, especially from someone like her. I guess I just did what had to be done, he said. She smiled, leaning back in her seat. I think you did more than that. You saved me. And not just from those thugs. Maybe from a boring night, too. Kale laughed, a little embarrassed. I don't think I'm used to saving anyone, let alone someone like you. Someone like me? She asked, her eyes glinting with amusement. I'm just a person, Kale. I've made mistakes, I've been reckless, but I've also survived. You see that, don't you? He nodded slowly. I do. And you're right. You're just a person. But most people wouldn't handle themselves like you did tonight. She reached out briefly, touching his arm, a gesture that was both casual and meaningful. You're not like most people either, she said. And I think that's why I want you around. Kale felt a mix of pride and apprehension. He had never been in a situation like this, where danger, admiration, and curiosity collided. But one thing was certain. His life had just taken a turn he hadn't expected as the hovercar glided through the neon-lit clouds of Veyron. 5. Cataline realized that the night was only beginning. He had rescued Leora, yes, but somehow she had rescued him too, from the monotony of his ordinary life, from the endless cycle of deliveries and solitude. And for the first time in a long while, he felt the stirrings of something he hadn't felt in years, anticipation for what came next. Leora watched the city lights flicker below them, a small smile playing on her lips. Kale had proven himself in the moment of danger, but she had a feeling that this was just the start of an adventure that neither of them could have predicted. And as the hovercar disappeared into the clouds, she thought to herself that maybe, just maybe, Kale was the kind of person she could trust, with more than just her safety. The night stretched ahead of them, full of possibilities, danger, and discovery. And Kale, despite his doubts and hesitations, knew one thing for certain. He was ready to face it, whatever it might bring. Kale had never flown through so many layers of clouds at once. The hovercar moved smoothly above the neon city, cutting through the thick haze of Veyron. 5 like a knife. Leora sat beside him, her posture still upright, eyes scanning the instruments and the shifting skyline with a confidence that made him realize she was used to navigating situations far more complex than a city in chaos. "So," Cale began, his hands gripping the edge of his seat, "you really want me to come with you? Just like that?" Leora looked at him, her gaze steady. "Yes, I need someone I can trust. Someone who can think on their feet and act when it matters. You proved tonight that you can do both." Cale rubbed the back of his neck. Trust is a big word.
"We just met."
"Trust isn't given lightly," she replied, "but sometimes it's the only way to survive." Cale considered her words. He had survived plenty of scrapes before, but nothing like this. And there was something about Leora, something magnetic, almost dangerous, that made him want to say yes, even if it meant stepping into unknown territory. The hovercar glided into a docking bay at the edge of the city, a private station hidden between commercial towers. Leora moved with purpose, activating a small panel beside the landing pad. A holographic map appeared, showing a distant sector far beyond the usual trade routes. She swiped her hand across it, zooming in on a jagged asteroid field. "This is where we're headed," she explained. "The prototype is hidden in an abandoned research station inside that field. It's worth more than most planets' GDP, and if it falls into the wrong hands..." She let the thought hang in the air. Cale's eyes widened. "You mean someone stole it?" "Yes," she said. "Corporate rivals. Pirates. Whoever gets it first could control interstellar travel for decades. And I intend to stop them." Kyle stared at the hologram, then back at her. "And you want me to help?" "Exactly," she replied with a calm certainty that made it clear there was no room for argument. "I've seen enough people fail. I don't want to fail." "Not this time." Kyle swallowed. He had flown through asteroid belts before, but nothing like this. And he wasn't sure he wanted to face pirates, or worse, on someone else's mission. But the resolve in Leora's eyes made him pause. She wasn't just rich or powerful. She was determined, fearless, and oddly inspiring. "All right," he said finally. "I'll help. But only because you asked nicely." Leora laughed softly, the sound echoing in the small cabin. That's all I needed to hear. Over the next few hours, they prepared the hovercar for the journey. Cale checked the navigation systems, recalibrated the engines, and secured emergency supplies while Leora studied star charts and schematics of the abandoned station. She had a sharp mind for strategy and technology, and Cale found himself impressed by the way she thought ahead, anticipating every possible obstacle. When the engines hummed and the hovercar lifted off the docking bay, the city disappeared below them. They entered open space, stars stretching endlessly in all directions. The asteroid field was a jagged maze, and Cale's fingers danced over the controls, adjusting speed and trajectory with precise calculations. Leora's voice guided him through each maneuver, calm and clear. "Left drift 20 degrees, she said. "No, wait. Adjust 5 more degrees. You'll clear the debris cluster." Cale nodded, trusting her instructions. It was rare to find someone who could direct him like this and still inspire confidence instead of frustration. He realized that he was no longer just a pilot. He was part of a team, and the stakes had never felt higher. The asteroid field was unforgiving. Rocks the size of buildings drifted unpredictably, and debris from old collisions floated in the void. Cale's heart pounded as he dodged a spinning mass of metal, Leora's calm voice keeping him focused. Minutes stretched like hours, and every maneuver required complete attention. Finally, they reached the outer edge of the research station. It floated like a ghost in the dark, half constructed, half ruined, with panels missing and lights flickering in long, uneven patterns. Leora's face hardened. "This is it," she said, "and I have a feeling we're not alone." Kale scanned the area with the hovercar sensors. There were signatures moving inside the station. Two organized to be random scavengers. Pirates, most likely, waiting for someone to come and claim the prototype. Leora's eyes met his. Ready? Kyle nodded. As I'll ever be. They docked on a side platform, using the hovercar's magnetic locks to secure it against the station's hull. Kale and Leora moved cautiously through the corridors, weapons at the ready. Broken panels and shattered equipment littered the floor, evidence of previous intrusions and accidents. The air smelled metallic, and the faint hum of damaged energy conduits added a tense rhythm to their steps. Suddenly, a shadow moved ahead. Kale reacted instinctively, flipping the small blaster he carried into position. Leora mirrored him, her hand resting on a sleek energy pistol strapped to her thigh. A group of 3 figures emerged, and Kale fired first, aiming to disable rather than harm. The shots hit the floor near their feet, sending sparks into the air. The pirates froze, startled by the sudden assault. Leora stepped forward confidently, her voice cutting through the tension. "Leave now, and no one gets hurt." The leader sneered, a jagged scar running across his face. "And who's going to stop us? You?" Kyle felt a surge of protectiveness. He wasn't just fighting for Leora now. He was fighting with her. He moved with precision, blocking one pirate's swing and tossing him aside, while Leora disarmed another with a swift kick and a precise shot that disabled the attacker's blaster. Within moments, the pirates were subdued, groaning and cursing as they realized they were outmatched. Kale looked at Leora, his chest still racing, and saw a small smile on her face. She wasn't exhilarated. She was assessing, already planning the next move. "Good work," she said quietly. "We need to move before reinforcements arrive." They continued deeper into the station, reaching a central chamber where the prototype was held. A sleek, glowing device suspended in a containment field. Its design was unlike anything Kale had ever seen. Energy rippled across its surface, pulsating with potential. "This is it," Leora whispered, almost reverently. "And it's worth more than anything most people will ever touch." Kale studied it, understanding the gravity of their task. Taking it wasn't just about money or power. It was about responsibility. Whoever controlled this device could change the balance of the galaxy. He felt a sense of awe mixed with fear. As Leora carefully disengaged the containment field, an alarm suddenly blared. Sensors had detected movement. More intruders were approaching. Leora's eyes met Kale's. "We need to go, now." Kale helped her secure the prototype, and they sprinted through the corridors, ducking behind panels and using damaged machinery as cover. The station seemed alive with tension, every shadow a potential threat. Kale marveled at Leora's composure. She was calm, focused, and fearless, even when the situation seemed impossible. They reached a maintenance hatch leading to the hovercar's dock, but just as they were about to exit, a heavy blast hit the wall beside them. Kale stumbled, shielding Leora instinctively. She caught his arm, steadying him, and together they pushed through the hatch into the open air of space. Kale activated the hovercar's external thrusters, maneuvering through the debris field with skill born of necessity. Leora kept her eyes on the sensors, guiding him with precise directions. The pursuers were relentless, but their combined efforts kept them ahead. Finally, they broke free of the asteroid field, the station shrinking behind them. Kale exhaled deeply, adrenaline still surging, and glanced at Leora. She looked back at him, her expression unreadable for a moment, then softened. "You did well," she said quietly. "Better than I expected." Kale shook his head. "We did well. Together." Leora nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Together," she agreed. As the hovercar soared through open space, leaving the danger behind, Kale realized something had changed. He was no longer just a pilot on a routine route. He was part of something larger, something dangerous and exciting. And Leora, brave, clever, and determined, was at the center of it. For the first time, Cale felt like he had a purpose beyond the cargo runs, the lonely nights, and the endless routine. And as the stars stretched out before them, he knew that the journey ahead would test every skill he had and demand every ounce of courage. But with Leora by his side, he felt ready for anything. And somewhere deep inside, he admitted to himself that he wasn't just drawn to the adventure, he was drawn to her. After the adrenaline of the asteroid chase and the daring recovery of the prototype, Cale and Leora found themselves floating in the quiet of deep space. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, but the calm did little to soothe the tension that lingered between them. Both were aware that the night's events were only the beginning. Leora's eyes remained fixed on the holographic map displayed on the hovercar's dashboard, tracing the coordinates of their next destination. Cale leaned back in his seat, exhausted but alert. "So what now?" he asked, his voice low. "We've got the prototype. Mission accomplished, right?" Leora didn't look up. "Not exactly," she said, her tone measured. "The prototype is just part of a bigger problem. There are others who will come for it. Corporate rivals, pirates, maybe even governments. Whoever controls it controls a huge part of interstellar travel. If we're going to keep it safe, we need to understand it first." Kyle nodded slowly, trying to absorb the weight of her words. He had thought the mission was simple: rescue the prototype, avoid trouble, and get paid. But now he understood that the galaxy itself had shifted under their feet. They weren't just thieves or adventurers. They were guardians of something that could change everything. Leora finally looked at him, her expression softer than he had ever seen. "I know this is a lot," she said quietly, "and I know you didn't sign up for it. But I need someone I can trust. I need you, Cale." Her words hit him harder than he expected. He had always been independent, relying on no one but himself, and now this heiress, the richest woman in the galaxy, was putting her trust in him. It wasn't just flattering, it was terrifying. "I'll do my best," he said finally. "But you have to promise me something too." "What's that?" Leora asked, her brows raised. "Promise me you'll be careful," Cale said. "I don't want to lose you. Not here. Not now." For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Then Leora smiled. Small, but genuine. "I'll be careful," she said. "But I can't promise I won't take risks. That's part of who I am." Colin leaned back, shaking his head. He had a feeling that he would have to accept that about her, and that it was one of the things that made her so extraordinary. They spent the next hours in relative quiet, studying the prototype. It was a sleek device, glowing faintly, its purpose still mysterious. Leora's fingers moved deftly over the controls, running diagnostics and scanning for energy patterns. Cale watched her, impressed by her intelligence and focus. She wasn't just a wealthy heiress. She was a problem solver, a strategist, and a fighter. "You're incredible," Cale said suddenly, unable to hold back his admiration. Leora looked up, surprised. "Incredible?" she repeated, a faint smile playing at her lips. "I've survived because I had to, that's all. Don't confuse necessity with brilliance." "No," Cale said. "It's more than that. You think ahead, you act fast, you keep your cool even when everything is falling apart. Most people I know would have panicked hours ago. You don't. That's incredible." For a moment, she simply stared at him, and Cale felt a strange mixture of pride and nervousness. There was a vulnerability in her gaze, though it was subtle, something she didn't often show. "Thank you," she said softly. "I suppose it's nice to be seen, for once, as more than just wealth and title." Kyle nodded. "I see you," he said simply. "Not the money, not the name. Just you." The words seemed to settle between them, unspoken, but understood. Kale felt a shift in their connection, a recognition that went beyond duty or mission. They were starting to rely on each other in ways neither had expected. Their calm didn't last long. The sensors suddenly blinked red, signaling movement nearby. Leora's eyes sharpened as she scanned the display.
We have company, she said quietly, and I don't think they're friendly.
Pirates? He asked. Worse, Leora said. They're skilled, organized, and they know about the prototype. The hover car shuddered as a distant energy blast struck nearby. Call instinctively adjusted the controls, weaving the vehicle through a narrow asteroid cluster. Leora directed him with precision, calling out warnings and adjustments that kept them safe from both debris and incoming fire. We can't outrun them forever, Kale said, sweat forming on his brow. We need a plan. Leora's fingers flew over the controls, activating defensive shields and plotting a course through an uncharted nebula. Then we make our own luck, she said. Follow my lead. For the next tense hour, Kale and Leora maneuvered through the swirling gases and hidden rocks of the nebula, dodging attacks and calculating paths that seemed almost impossible. The pursuit was relentless, but their coordination was flawless. Kale was no longer just a pilot following instructions. He was an equal partner, anticipating her needs, covering blind spots, and making split-second decisions that kept them alive. Finally, they emerged from the nebula into open space. Their pursuers had fallen behind, unable to navigate the hazards as effectively. Kale exhaled, exhausted but exhilarated. That was intense, he said, his voice shaking slightly from adrenaline. Leora nodded, but her expression was thoughtful, almost distant. We survived this time, she said, but it's a warning. Whoever sent them knows what they're after. They won't stop until they have the prototype. Kyle looked at her, concern written across his face. Then we need to get somewhere safe. Somewhere we can study the prototype without worrying about being attacked every hour. Leora's lips curved into a small, determined smile. I have a place. A hidden station, heavily shielded and self-sufficient. It's far from any trade routes and completely off the grid. Kyle raised an eyebrow. Sounds perfect. Lead the way. As they set course for the hidden station, the tension between them eased slightly. They worked in silence, each absorbed in their own thoughts. Kale couldn't stop thinking about the trust Leora had placed in him and how easily it had become mutual. He realized that their connection was more than necessity. It was something personal, something that had been forming since the bar fight on Veyron. 5 hours later, they approached the station. It was hidden within a dense asteroid belt, its exterior reinforced with energy-absorbing alloys. Leora navigated the hover car through the narrow openings, docking it with precision. The station's interior was stark but functional, equipped with research labs, living quarters, and secure storage for the prototype. This will do, Leora said, stepping inside. We can rest, study, and plan our next moves without immediate danger. It was unlike any place he had ever been. Safe, controlled, and yet alive with the energy of possibility. Over the next few days, they worked side by side. Leora ran experiments on the prototype, while KL monitored the station's systems and tested defensive measures. They shared meals, conversations, and quiet moments that allowed them to get to know each other better. Hale discovered that beneath Leora's confidence and intelligence was a woman who valued honesty, loyalty, and courage. And Leora discovered that Kale was more than a pilot. He was steady, clever, and brave in ways that words could barely capture. One evening, as they watched the stars from the observation deck, Leora turned to him. Kale, she said softly, I've never trusted anyone like this before. You've proven yourself more than capable, but more importantly, you've proven yourself worthy of trust. Kale felt a warmth in his chest he couldn't explain. Leora, He stopped, unsure of what to say. words felt insufficient for the weight of the moment. She smiled faintly, teasing him with her gaze. "You don't have to say anything," she said. "Just stay. That's all I ask." Kael nodded, understanding the deeper meaning behind her words. He wasn't just staying to help with the prototype. He was staying because he wanted to be there for her, no matter what the galaxy threw at them. As the station hummed quietly around them, Kael realized that the adventure had changed him. He was no longer just a pilot drifting through space. He was part of something larger, something that required courage, trust, and loyalty. And in that realization, he found a sense of purpose he had never felt before. Leora, watching him closely, felt the same shift. She had always been surrounded by wealth, power, and influence, but never by someone who saw her for who she truly was. Kael had changed that, not with grand gestures or money, but with bravery, honesty, and quiet strength. Their journey was far from over. The galaxy was still full of dangers, rivals, and unknown threats, but for the first time, both of them felt ready to face whatever came next. Together, as the night deepened, stars glinting through the observation deck's windows, Leora turned to Kael and whispered, almost to herself, "Will you stay if I shed the armor I've built around me?" Kael understood immediately. He reached for her hand, a simple gesture full of unspoken promises. "I'll stay," he said, "no matter what." And with that, they faced the future together. Two people united not just by circumstance, but by trust, courage, and the beginning of something neither of them had expected. The hidden station was quiet, a bubble of calm in a galaxy full of chaos. Kael and Leora had spent the last few days studying the prototype and preparing defenses. They had fortified the station's shields, mapped escape routes, and run simulations of possible attacks. Yet despite their precautions, both knew it was only a matter of time before someone tried to take the device. The galaxy did not wait. Kael stood at the observation deck, watching a cluster of distant stars. The weight of responsibility pressed on him. But it was different now. He wasn't just a pilot carrying cargo or running from danger. He was part of a mission that mattered, protecting something that could alter the future. Leora joined him, her presence calm yet commanding. "Any guesses when they'll arrive?" Kael asked, breaking the silence. "They won't be polite," she said softly. "They'll come when we least expect it, hoping we're distracted." Her hand brushed against the console beside her, fingers moving lightly over the controls. "But we'll be ready," Kael nodded. "I trust you. I trust us." Leora's eyes softened. "And I trust you, Kael, more than anyone else I've ever let close." The station hummed, its systems glowing faintly as if echoing the quiet tension in the air. Then the alarms blared. Red lights bathed the corridors and the observation deck. Kael and Leora exchanged a glance, the unspoken understanding passing between them. The attackers had arrived. "Hold tight," Leora said, already moving to her station. "We're not just going to survive, we're going to win." Kael gripped the controls, adjusting the external defenses. Energy barriers flared to life around the station, and turrets activated, scanning for intruders. The sensors confirmed movement. Multiple ships were approaching, sleek and armed, clearly not ordinary pirates. They were precise, coordinated, and dangerous. "They know exactly what they're doing," Kael said, tension in his voice. "And they don't expect us," Leora replied, her eyes sharp. "We have the advantage if we act quickly." The attackers launched the first salvo, energy blasts streaking across the void. Kael deftly maneuvered the station's automated defenses, deflecting attacks with skillful precision. Leora coordinated the countermeasures, rerouting power to shields where it was needed most. The station trembled under the impact, but it held. Kael felt a surge of adrenaline. "We can't keep this up forever," he said. "They'll find a weak point." Leora's fingers flew over the console, adjusting the station's trajectory to take advantage of the surrounding asteroid field. Then we make the battlefield our advantage, she said. Use the environment. Force them to follow us. The attackers pursued, weaving through the dense asteroids, their ships agile but not as familiar with the terrain. Kale and Leora's coordination turned the odds in their favor. Every move Kale made was guided by Leora's precise directions. Every adjustment she made relied on his flawless execution. Amid the chaos, Kale caught a glimpse of Leora in the turret's reflection, her face calm, determined, and brilliant under pressure. He realized he was not just protecting her. He was fighting alongside someone who inspired him, someone whose courage matched his own. One of the attacker's ships managed to breach the outer defense, slamming into the station's hull. The impact sent a jolt through the deck, throwing Kale against the console. Leora steadied him, her hand brushing his briefly, a grounding touch amidst the chaos. "Focus," she said firmly. "We're not done yet," Kyle nodded, breathing steadying as he regained control. Together they orchestrated a counterattack, guiding automated drones to intercept the intruders. Blasts lit up the dark void, each hit calculated, each maneuver precise. The attackers began to falter, unable to match the teamwork and ingenuity of Kale and Leora. Finally, the last of the enemy ships was forced to retreat, damaged and beaten. The station trembled, its systems strained, but it remained intact. Kale exhaled, exhaustion and relief mingling. Leora's eyes met his, and a quiet acknowledgement passed between them. They had survived, and they had won. But the victory was not without reflection. Leora turned from the console, her gaze lingering on the prototype. "We've held it," she said softly, "but this isn't the end. They'll come back. We have to be ready." Kyle nodded, feeling the weight of the future pressing on them. "Then we prepare, and we stay together." Leora's lips curved into a faint smile. "Together," she agreed. The next few days were a mix of study, repair, and preparation. They worked side by side, reinforcing the station, running simulations, and analyzing the prototype. Kale learned more about Leora's mind and her vision for the galaxy. How she wanted to use the prototype, not for control or profit, but to advance technology and help colonies reach new systems safely. Kale found himself inspired, realizing that the heiress he had once thought untouchable was a visionary. And Leora saw Kale's skills, courage, and quick thinking not as a pilot she needed, but as an equal partner in both strategy and heart. One quiet evening, as the stars glimmered outside the observation deck, Leora turned to Kale. "You've changed everything," she said. "Not just this mission, but me. I've never trusted anyone like I trust you." "I feel the same," he said. "I've never felt part of something bigger or cared for someone like I care for you." Leora's smile softened, and she reached for his hand. "Then stay," she whispered. "Stay not because you have to, but because you want to." Kale squeezed her hand gently. "I'll stay," he said, "no matter what comes next." Their moment was interrupted by a soft alarm. The sensors detected a distant, fast-moving signature. Kale's heart leapt. More attackers? Leora scanned quickly, her eyes narrowing. "It's not an attack," she said after a moment. "It's a message." A holographic display flickered to life, showing the image of an older man, sharp-eyed and authoritative. "Leora Ardent," he said, voice firm but calm. "I hear you recovered the prototype." "Well done." "No, but its power is greater than you know. Meet me at the coordinates I'm sending. Alone." Leora studied the message, then turned to Kale. He's a former mentor, one of the brightest minds who helped develop this technology. He wants to see us, but alone. Kale frowned. "Alone? Are you going?" "I have to," she said. "He can help us understand the prototype." "But it's risky. That's why I want you to come with me. We face this together." Kale nodded, determination in his eyes. "Together," he repeated, echoing her words. They boarded the hovercar, the prototype secured safely in its containment unit. The journey was tense, silent, except for the hum of the engines and the occasional scan of the surrounding space. Both knew this encounter could reveal secrets, truths, or dangers they weren't prepared for. When they arrived at the meeting point, a deserted research outpost orbiting a dead planet, Leora stepped forward, prototype in hand. Kale stayed close, ready for anything. The older man stepped from the shadows, his expression serious. "You've done well," he said, eyes locking on Leora. "The prototype is safe for now, but there are forces in this galaxy who will stop at nothing to claim it. You must understand its potential and its responsibility." Leora nodded. "We're ready." Kale watched her, pride swelling. She had faced danger, risk, and uncertainty, yet she remained composed and resolute. He felt a deep admiration for her courage and vision. The mentor continued, explaining the intricacies of the prototype, its potential for transportation, energy generation, and exploration. Kale listened, absorbing every detail, realizing the true scale of what they protected. This wasn't just a device. It was a future, a chance to shape the galaxy for the better. As the lessons concluded, Leora turned to Kale, a quiet smile on her face. "We've done it," she said softly. "We've faced danger, outsmarted enemies, and protected something greater than ourselves." Kyle smiled back, feeling the weight of their journey and the strength of their bond. "And we'll keep doing it," he said, "together." Leora's eyes glimmered, and she reached for him, intertwining their fingers.
"Together," she confirmed.
The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of challenges, wonders, and mysteries. But Kale and Leora knew that whatever came next, they would face it, side by side. The prototype, their courage, and their trust in each other had proven one thing above all. Greatness was not just in power or wealth, but in loyalty, bravery, and the willingness to stand together. And as they lifted off into the stars, leaving the outpost behind, Kale realized that he had found more than adventure. He had found purpose, partnership, and someone who had changed his life forever. The galaxy awaited, vast and unpredictable, but Kale and Leora were ready, and this time they would face it not as a pilot and an heiress, but as equals, partners and friends who had proven that together they could overcome anything.